It is a great pleasure to be here today in Kazakhstan, even more so to be the first president of the European Commission to visit your country. And it is indeed a great honor to address you today in the Gumileva University, this prestigious seat of learning, which in less than 2 decades has become one of the leading universities in the entire Central Asia region. Now I understand why. The fact that today is a Sunday, normally you should not be working. You could be enjoying the good weather outside, and that you come to university at Sunday shows that these students must be very hard-working people. I'm sorry if it is my fault, but I really want to thank you also, Rector, through you, all university, for this distinction of awarding me the honoris causa degree of this prestigious university. Indeed, you are very generous because you give me your award without myself making first my exam. But I will try to respond by the words I will say now to you. This university is a tangible sign that your country, Kazakhstan, recognizes the value of investment in the future, in research, in development, in its own citizens. And both this university and the city of Astana, which I'm discovering for this first time, are stunning examples of the achievements of Kazakhstan in just 2 decades as an independent nation. However, Kazakhstan's past and history date back far further, as Lev Gumileva demonstrated in his extensive work, and as I could just now witness in the brief visit to the museum you have here about the history, very long history of traditions of this country that we very much respect. In fact, our relations also are almost as old as the relations we have between Europe and Central Asia. Over the centuries, Kazakhstan and Europe have been much closer than you would think from just looking at the map. Our destinies were tied together from the 6th to the 14th centuries, when East and West were able to travel and to trade freely along the Silk Route. And this has played a unique and central role in the process of cultural exchange in the old world. Goods, ideas, technology, culture moved back and forth along its length. Mathematics, astronomy, and science traveled east and west, along with different forms of music, dance, and painting. And more recently, the historic divisions of the 20th century kept us apart. But after Kazakhstan's independence, this distance is rapidly reducing as the imperatives of the 21st century once again bring us together and closer. In this, I do not simply mean our common global issues. Issues like the need to ensure sustainable development or to fight climate change, vital as these issues are. I also refer to the bilateral ties between the European Union and Kazakhstan that are yet again binding us increasingly closely together. Dear students, distinguished members of this university, Kazakhstan is becoming these days an increasingly important partner for the European Union in the region, not only due to trade and investment exchanges, but more importantly, as a stable country with a proven track record of harmony and tolerance and a tradition which dates back beyond indeed the Silk Route. We wish to deepen and enrich this relationship. The negotiation of a new and enhanced partnership and cooperation agreement, which we have initiated together, is recognition of the importance of Kazakhstan to the European Union and of our strong strategic relations. The European Union is committed to successfully concluding these negotiations as soon as possible, and we trust that our Kazakh partners jointly share this commitment. Our aim is to broaden the scope of our cooperation in all areas of mutual interest and to support Kazakhstan's reform and modernization efforts. Human rights and respect for the rule of law are also part of a modern society and need to be secured through open dialogue, political pluralism, and a vibrant civil society. This is also an important dimension of our partnership and also very important for the deepening of our bilateral ties. Certainly, one cannot expect that all countries that emerged from Soviet rule will quickly transform into full mature democracies after only 20 years of rediscovered independence. I know this is a long walk, but the direction of the path is important. And the European Union wants to be your partner, walking side by side with you, sharing European Union experience and expertise where you may find this useful for your own way of doing politics in your country. But it is not just the political challenges that we can address together. There are also economic challenges to be faced. And also here, the relationship with the European Union can make a difference for the better. Bilateral trade between the European Union and Kazakhstan has been growing very rapidly over the past decade. The European Union has progressively become Kazakhstan's leading trade partner, with about 40% of your total external trade. Europe has also become the top investor in Kazakhstan, accounting for about half of total foreign direct investment in this country. Last year, our bilateral trade amounted to 31 billion euros, 3/4 of which were represented by Kazakh exports, in particular oil and gas, which accounted for most of Kazakh exports. A need for diversification of Kazakh exports is obvious. To this end, attracting foreign investment is vital. This is not simply about bringing financial resources to your country, it is also about gaining know-how and expertise, gaining more in technology, on management, about building links to the global economy. This is why our future partnership and cooperation agreement is indeed so important. It will strengthen our cooperation on economic issues. It will allow us to work towards applying common standards in agreed areas on the basis of international or European Union standards. This is the key to accessing the European Union single market that is the largest market by value in the world. Deepening economic ties with the European Union is one vital element, but Kazakhstan also needs to be an integrated part of the world trading system. The European Union has always been very supportive of Kazakhstan joining the WTO, World Trade Organization. I am most pleased to be able to confirm here today that our trade negotiators have found agreement on the substantive elements of the bilateral European Union-Kazakh terms of accession. We look forward to signing the deal soon. Let us aim for the multilateral deal to complete the process so that we can have Kazakhstan as a full member of the WTO. Kazakhstan WTO membership will mark a milestone in our bilateral trade and investment relations, providing a good basis for further deepening our trade cooperation. Of course, access to the markets of others also means that we must be ready to open our own markets. Barriers to trade, and here I mean not just tariffs, but other measures including bureaucratic licensing systems for engineering companies or excessive restriction on certain types of foreign workers need to be examined and where necessary removed as part of Kazakhstan's deeper integration into the international economy. Another way we can advance our bilateral economic ties is to be inspired by the historic Silk Road. It is in our mutual interest to modernize our transportation links, especially aviation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, Kazakhstan has been able over these last years to improve the well-being of its people, thanks to an impressive economic growth. In 15 years, Kazakhstan's GDP increased 16 times, and GDP per capita grew 7-fold, from $1,500 in 1998 to $12,000 in 2012. These important developments were drove by a buoyant energy sector, which has also seen its share in the national economy greatly increase. The current opening of the Kashagan oil field, one of the largest projects in the world in the past few decades, will become a symbol of what Kazakhstan has achieved in the energy sector. It is a symbol also of the strong relations between Kazakhstan and the European Union. Multiple joint and mutual beneficial investments, as well as substantial energy trade. However, in a world where in the last century the population grew 4 times, economic output grew 40 times, fossil fuel use 16 times, and water use 9 times, we have to change the paradigm. We need ever more to decouple economic growth from the use of natural resources, otherwise we will soon reach our planet's limits. This is why I commend the 2050 strategy anchored in a green economy concept which the Kazakh authorities have just embraced. Being one of the world's largest oil producers and adopting a growth strategy for the future based on clean energy and resource efficiency is not only commendable, I think it is visionary. This is a policy choice which is similar to the one we are following in Europe. We have adopted a 2020 strategy aiming at a smart, sustainable, inclusive economy. Among other targets, we are committed to achieve 2% reduction, 20% reduction in greenhouse gases, 20% of renewables as part of our energy production in the energy mix, and 20% of energy efficiency by 2020. We have a wealth of expertise in this area that we are willing to share with you. As far as hosting of International Exhibition Expo 2017, for which I congratulate you, on the topic Energy of the Future, we will present more opportunities for cooperation in Europe, both between administrations and business, but also the civil society at large, including, I believe, universities like yours, students, researchers, professors. I am a true believer in the capacity of academia to forge stronger links between peoples and between nations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in an ever more interdependent world, a world where technology has made us all neighbors, and where increasingly the action of one nation can impact on us all. We have a common interest in global concerns, such as climate change, but also in other fields, such as the fight against extremism and terrorism and non-proliferation. The European Union wishes to work closely with Kazakhstan in facing up to these challenges. Your perspective on issues across the wider region is one which we highly value. Let me reassure you that the European Union remains committed to supporting stability and fledgling democratic governance across the wider region. Succeeding the transition in Afghanistan post-2014 presents a challenge to us all, and we need to rise up to the occasion. The European Union will remain engaged in the country and will continue to provide not just political support, but also economic and technical assistance as a way to reinforce overall stability in the region. And regional cooperation is indeed key to face today's challenges. Not even the largest and mightiest countries can afford political and economic isolation. Kazakhstan has rightly been opening up to the region and the rest of the world, and has initiated a process of regional integration through a customs union with 2 of its neighbors. As a regional integration project, the European Union supports this trend elsewhere in the world. However, it is important that the regional cooperation is not made at the expense of world integration. Regional processes need to be open and act as bridges in political and economic terms. They should multiply the opportunities to engage with others and not subtract them. Rector, professors, the students, ladies and gentlemen, we have started from a small beginning. But there is a saying that the mightiest trees grow from the smallest seed. Just as democracy must be tended daily, just as our economies require daily work and attention, so day by day we will build our neighborly and friendly relations. The great Kazakh poet Abay Kunanbayev reminded us in his book of words of an old Kazakh proverb: the source of success is unity. And united we shall continue, planting what will one day become the solid trunk of our bilateral relations. I think this is good for Kazakhstan. I'm sure this is also good for the European Union, and I think it is also very good for the region and for the world. I thank you for your time.
Спасибо, господин президент, за содержательную лекцию. Естественно, данная лекция вызывает огромный интерес среди слушателей. Я не удивлюсь, если будут вопросы. Пожалуйста. Представьтесь, пожалуйста.
Good afternoon, President Barrozу, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Azamat. I'm a postgraduate student of Faculty of Journalism and Political Science. Well, first of all, Mr. President, let us thank you for visiting our university today and speaking about Sunday. For most of the students in this room, well, including me, this is like once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to visit the lecture of yours, President Barrozу. So thanks again for that. We really appreciate that. And my question is, Mr. Barrozу, how do you personally assess the process of European integration? And if it is possible now, maybe some words on the details on the prospects of this process in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That will be an old subject for an old conference because it's a very general question. I want to thank you for the question. My honest assessment after 9 years in this position, Commission President, is that the European integration process is going to overcome all the current difficulties we have in Europe. And in fact, Europe will become stronger after these difficulties, namely economic difficulties that we know have touched Europe. It was the financial crisis that indeed did not start in Europe, but had a great impact in many of our countries, in the financial sector, but also because of the sovereign debt of some of our member states. And today is having a negative impact in economic growth and also in social matters because of the unemployment that is going on high. Having said this, if you look at the decisions since the beginning of the crisis, they have been all of them for more integration and not less integration. The member states of the European Union, as you know, today there are 27 countries. The 1st of July we will receive a new member. Croatia will become 28 countries. The 27 countries have been accepting more cases where there is a sharing of sovereignty, where we act together. Precisely because of the crisis, we have understood that we need a stronger economic governance because of the interdependence of our economies. And we have been giving very important steps in the last years for that purpose. And it's not easy to build a lifeboat in the middle of a storm. That's what we have been doing, creating new instruments, new mechanisms to act in case of crisis. So my evaluation of the European integration process is positive. I know that today it is very fashionable to be pessimist. If you look at the international media, I think there is a kind of a global competition. People believe the more pessimist, the more intelligent they look. It's like what I call the intellectual glamour of pessimism. But my assessment of the situation, if you look at the trends, is in fact of more integration. Don't forget this. The European integration process started after the Second World War, well, with all the devastation that the Second World War caused in Europe and beyond Europe. It was only 6 countries, big and small, but all treated exactly the same respect. By the way, putting the headquarters of this integration in smaller countries, not in big countries. All with the same respect. Only 6 countries. But then, it became 9, afterwards 10, 12, that's where my country, and my country's Portugal, and Spain joined. Afterwards 15, 25, 27, 28, and others are willing to join. And so this shows that the European Union remains extremely attractive, and that has been able, through crisis, sometimes, yes, to gain forces for more integration. And in fact, when you look at the situation of Europe 20 or 40 years ago, where Europe divided, or a Europe where there was no democracy, including my own country, I remember when there was not democracy. And when you look today, the situation of Europe, it's much better than 20, 40, not to speak about 60 years before. That is why when we look, and as students, I'm sure you are interested in this, not just look what happens every day, what the first page of the newspaper says, but we have to look at the trend. The most important trends, I think there are reasons to be confident in the European Union. And this is good for the world stability, because the European Union can be a very important player globally. It is already, but can even become stronger, because we need a world where we avoid confrontations as we have seen in the past. And the European Union is a force for peace. I was extremely proud when, together with my colleagues of the European Union, on behalf of the European Union, I received in Oslo the Nobel Peace Prize, beginning of the year. It was a great moment where the Nobel Peace Prize Committee recognized that the European Union, by the idea of putting together countries sharing their sovereignty instead of fighting each other, was a very good example for other parts of the world. So my answer is the European integration process will continue. We will adapt to new circumstances, but I think the European Union will get out of the difficulties that some of our member states are facing more resilient and stronger, which is good for Europeans, but also good for our neighbors and friends like Kazakhstan, and good for the wider world.
Еще есть вопросы?
Good afternoon, Mr. Honorary Professor. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you. My name is Dina Turtugulova, and I'm a master's degree student of Architecture and Construction Faculty. I have a question for you. What are the current priorities and goals of strategic partnership between EU and Kazakhstan?
Thank you. Now, in our partnership with Kazakhstan, we are covering almost all fields. It's, first of all, economic, trade and investment. We would like to have even a strengthening of this part of the relations in the new agreement that we are negotiating. So, trade and investment. But it's more than that. It is also political dialogue, including, for instance, the dialogue on issues like human rights and rule of law, to involve civil society and subjects like this one, but also dialogue on external and security issues that are so important, where Kazakhstan is playing such an important role in terms of stability in the region and beyond. And this also about people-to-people contacts. For instance, also between students on all parts of Europe to Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan to the European Union. People-to-people contacts is also part, and research and innovation. Matters that are very much is a priority in the Kazakhstan plan for strategy to 2050, and that are also very important at European level. And as your rector just said, there is already, your university has been benefiting of some of these programs, like Erasmus Mundus and other programs where we are putting at the disposition available to some of our partners the European universities and possibilities of exchange of researchers and other kind of exchanges. So it is indeed this broad concept that makes the European Union partner of Kazakhstan. It's a comprehensive relationship covering, for instance, today I'm going, after meeting you, I will see also the Prime Minister, and tomorrow I'll see President Nazarbayev, and I know that recently it was adopted here what calls a green concept, another issue where we can cooperate and put also as part of our comprehensive relationship. And I think from that point of view, Europe can be a very important partner of Kazakhstan in terms of diversification of your economy. And this is why I insist there are many areas where it's a comprehensive approach in our partnership.
Good afternoon, Mr. Barrozу. My name is Marshan. I'm a second year student of the Faculty of International Relations, and it's a great honor to be a part of this lecture. And my question is, what can you advise to Kazakhstan to achieve the highest quality of life? Thank you in advance.
First of all, I would say do it your own way, because I very much respect different models, different traditions, and I don't like at all when someone coming from outside tries to give us lessons without first knowing enough about the country itself. I don't like this position. Now what I can do and say to you is share our experience. And then it's up to you, namely the young citizens of this country, to decide how we can proceed. In our model in Europe, of course today we have difficulties, but by and large Europe remains one of, let's say, most advanced regions in the world with highest, let's say, growth, highest GDP per capita, and namely with very high levels of, in terms of social indicators, prosperity, and overall development. In Europe, the concept that we have developed over the decades, nearly after the Second World War, was what we call a social market economy. It means an economy that is open, is a market economy. It's not regulated by the state, it's a market, very open, very competitive, but at the same time, important social considerations, and with a welfare state. There are differences among our member states, from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean. There are many differences in Europe, but all of our countries have a welfare system. For instance, basic rights for education guaranteed in almost all our countries, a complete free education for the lower levels of education, almost free, if not complete free. Education is key. And also another model that something we have in our system is a high level of protection of not only individual rights, let's say freedom, democracy, but also social rights. And also we have developed a great attention to the environment, the respect for nature, and the need to respect the environment, including all issues for the need for fight climate change. So it is a model that does not look just to the economy, but looks to the social aspects with a high priority there, and to environmental and other concerns, for instance, consumer rights, and generally speaking also the civil society. Because we believe the strength of a country is not just the strength of the state. Of course, it's very important to have states that are stable and that can keep peace, public order. This is quite clear. But we believe that the strength of a country has to do also with the strength of the society, how vibrant, how able to adapt to how creative a society is, how much it is possible to let the initiative of each man, each woman contribute to that society. And this is very important thing. Now, your country has been doing impressively in terms of growth last year, and I congratulated you in my speech, in my introductory remarks. Seen from outside, I would say that it is important to see if this development, this growth, is well distributed. Because we know, and that's something that you have studied probably in university, that when there is a very important movement of growth, we have to look also at the disparity of growth between different social sectors and between normally the center and the periphery. This is something that is very important. Because if not, if it is not done properly, it can create problems in the future. Another issue, of course, is to have some standards in the legislation and in the practice. To establish some standards, for instance, protection of consumers, some standards for the quality of infrastructure, some standards for the, and this is why it's good to have international cooperation, so that we can do this together, trying to establish always the higher standards and not go for the lower standards, because at the end what counts is of course the kind of quality of life that each country can offer to its citizens. And this is basically our model in Europe. We are not perfect, and we are not trying to sell or to impose our model to nobody in the world, but we believe there are many good things that happen in Europe during that many years of development, and that of course we are able, if you wish, to share our experience with you and with other friends around the world.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your lecture, Mr. Barrozу. My name is I'm a teacher of philology department. My question is, European higher educational institutions are widely recognized for their quality and research. However, they also face challenges of current transformations in the educational sphere. Mr. Barrozу, what is your vision of world-class university today? Thank you.
We are speaking about something very dear to my heart, because I consider myself an accidental politician. I was in fact in university career. I was Lisbon, but afterwards I went to Geneva in Switzerland, to Georgetown in Washington. But then some friends of mine said, come to the government, come to politics, it will not last too much because the government will fall very soon. And it is true, the first government I was only lasted 1 year and a half, but afterwards there was election and I stayed 10 years more in the government. And so it's already now more than 30 years that I'm in politics. So whenever someone tells you, come, it's only to be for some time, you be suspicious of that. It may happen that it will last longer. But regarding universities, I think one of the most important issues is openness. And this is what we are doing. When I was, I don't know exactly how old you are, but when I was 18 years of age myself, in my country, there was censorship. I could not read all the books I wanted. So we were living in a relatively closed society. So southern of Europe, in the early 70s, today, to a large extent, thanks to the internet, this is no longer possible. You have an access to information that is extraordinary. You can just with a touch have access to a lot of information. Of course, I had a professor one day who told me, information is not the most important thing. He said, knowledge is the process by which you eliminate useless information. So, and I insist on this, why? Because we need more and more critical capacity. Information, you can have tons and tons of information, but we need to develop minds that are critical to understand the changes we are living with. The world is being transformed at an unprecedented scale. The speed is so big. And there is another thing. In the past, it was mainly the states that were controlling this. It's no longer like that today in the future. Many of these developments are technology driven. And so not even the biggest countries can control that. So it is a society, the world, where the power, the capacity, the intelligence, the knowledge of each individual, man or woman, will be decided. So that's why I think the top universities will be those who are able to promote this kind of openness. They will be for cross-fertilization, avoiding just to look at one, but being open to others, trying also to be interdisciplinary, trying to receive inputs from many different sources, and to be open generally to the world. I think this is critically important. At the same time, I believe that the very idea of academia is this one. It's an idea where we try to transcend borders, be it the borders of knowledge or the borders of a specific reality. When, of course, we are proud of our identities, we are proud of our country, but at the same time, we try to understand what's going on. This is, I believe, what makes the great universities of the 21st century, those who are able to create this critical thinking, those opening minds that invest also in cross-fertilization and that are able also to communicate this progressive view of the world. And I know that here in Kazakhstan there is a great interest in education, and that the authorities of Kazakhstan are looking to this with great attention. I think it's a very intelligent and wise bet. Because when you look at the countries, some years ago I was receiving in Brussels, I can tell you, it's Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Elias in this Sweden, and he was telling us, many people ask me why Sweden has succeeded. Sweden, you know, and the same could be said about most of the Nordic countries in Europe. And he said basically three things. Those countries were poor, very poor, in the beginning of last century, the Scandinavian countries. And why are they today not only so rich, but so developed, also in technology and economically? Three things, he said. First, institutions. Institutions that are reliable and honest. It's very important. Second, infrastructure, a minimum of good infrastructure. Third, education. Education is the key, because with people that are educated, we'll be able to do much better things for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Barrozу, to visit us. It's very big honor to us. My name is Manuэ Nursultan. I am a student of Economic Faculty. And I want to ask you, and since 2020, European studies discuss about Europe and United States. What do you think about it?
Europe and United States?
Yes.
We have a good relationship with the United States, and we are working with the United States very actively in many areas. The United States, as you know, it's a very important power in the world. European Union is a union composed of different countries. We have in our system also some federal elements, but we are not a country. Like the United States is a country, or Russia is a country, or China is a country, or Kazakhstan is a country. We are a union of member states, 28 from the 1st of July 2013. But there are indeed many issues in common with the United States, with a country which work very closely in many areas. In fact, we are now, since you spoke about this, we are now preparing to launch, probably this month we will do it, transatlantic trade and investment partnership. That if it is concluded will be the biggest in the world. Because as you know, the European-United States economic relationship is the biggest in the world in terms of volume, trade and investment. So I think if this is concluded, it will be good also because it will give a contribution to more open global economy, because even between Europe and the United States there are still some barriers, not only in terms of tariffs, but also non-tariff barriers that in fact, if lifted, could create, I believe, much more opportunities for growth. So the United States is of course a very important partner of the European Union as such, as we try to develop also and in fact deepen relationship with other partners in the world. But the European Union as such, is different from the relationship that, as you know, have some of our countries. To give an example, NATO. Not all members of the European Union are members of NATO. And not all members of NATO are members of the European Union, of course, even in Europe, where we have countries like Norway or Turkey that are European countries but not members of the European Union, and they are NATO countries. And we have countries like Austria or Finland or Ireland that are members of the European Union but are not members of it. I'm saying this because it is important to understand when we speak about European Union or European relations with the United States that there is of course this Atlantic community, namely based on NATO, but there is also another different relationship. It is a relationship between the European Union as such, which is not a military alliance, it's a union, a political union that was built basically for in economic terms but with a political goal, and of course the relationship that we have with our American partners and friends.
Позвольте от вашего имени поблагодарить высокого гостя за содержательную лекцию и за всеобъемлющие ответы на наши с вами вопросы. Мы сегодня послушали лекцию не только президента Евросоюза, но и Нобелевского лауреата.